Talia had been pacing all day, her hand occasionally resting on her swollen stomach. I noticed the discomfort etched across her face, the tightening in her belly, the way she winced with every step. She complained of back pain, but it was more than that. It was tension, a gnawing unease that was only growing as the hours ticked by. It was Saturday, the day I had been dreading, and the day I had planned to show Talia the truth. My heart had been lodged in my throat since the morning, and every text that popped up on my phone made me feel like I was sinking deeper into something I couldn't turn back from. I watched as Talia checked her phone repeatedly, her brow furrowed in worry. "What's wrong?" I asked, even though I already knew.
"John's not answering,"
she replied, a hint of panic creeping into her voice. I swallowed hard, knowing what was coming. "Why don't we go to the park and take a walk?" I suggested. I had arranged for the truth to unfold there. Talia and I had been going to the park regularly. It was good for the baby, good for her. I thought it would be the perfect setting for her to see what she needed to see, even though it would break her heart. We got in the car and drove to the park near our house, the one with the shelter and the shaded playground equipment. I pulled into the parking lot and spotted them immediately. John, Maggie, and their kids. My heart clenched as I braced myself for what was about to happen. Talia hadn't noticed them yet, but I had. I had known they would be there. When I stopped the car, Talia's eyes lit up.
"You didn't tell me he'd be here,"
she said, a grin spreading across her face. But then she looked closer. John was sitting on a blanket with Maggie and their youngest child. He wasn't hiding. He wasn't sneaking around. He was there, with his family. We both watched as John leaned down and kissed Maggie sweetly, the kind of kiss that spoke volumes, the kind I'd seen him give Talia a dozen times, but now it was reserved for his wife. Then he helped Maggie to her feet, his hand resting gently on her baby bump. Talia's smile faltered. A tear slipped down her cheek as she took in the sight of Maggie's growing belly.
"Did you know about this?"
she asked quietly, her voice shaky. "Yes," I admitted, my heart aching for her. "Everyone knows but you."
"She's pregnant,"
Talia whispered, her eyes still locked on the scene unfolding before her. "And he loves her," I said softly. "And their family." Talia blinked rapidly, her lips trembling.
"Love isn't finite,"
she said almost desperately.
"It expands. Someone can love more than one person."
"He told you it was a marriage of convenience," I reminded her, my voice firmer now, though it hurt me to say it. She shrugged, but her eyes stayed fixed on John, who was now pushing Maggie gently on the swing. They were laughing, completely at ease. The kind of easy, genuine happiness I had never seen between John and Talia. The kind of happiness that told me everything I needed to know about where John's heart truly lay. "He has a happy family," I said gently. "It's not for convenience." Talia's expression hardened. She reached for her seatbelt, snapping it back on.
"Can we go home now?"
she asked, her voice flat, empty. John must have sensed something because he looked in our direction. For a brief second, his eyes locked on Talia, but then he shook his head, silently telling her not to disturb him, and he turned away, as if he hadn't seen her at all, as if she didn't exist. Talia lifted her hand to wave at him, but he ignored it, too absorbed in his picture-perfect family moment to acknowledge her presence. "You still want to go home?" I asked gently.
"Yes,"
she whispered, her voice breaking, but her resolve holding strong. We drove back in silence. Talia spent the rest of the day locked in her room, refusing to come out. I heard her crying through the door but didn't push her. I knew this was something she had to process on her own. The truth had shattered her, just as I had feared it would. At 3 a.m., she woke me.
"My water broke,"
she said, standing at my bedroom door, her face pale, her voice shaky.
"Can you call John?"
I did. I called him again and again, left voicemails, sent texts. But he didn't answer, not once. I drove her to the hospital. She cried the whole way, clutching her belly, whispering John's name over and over again like a prayer. But he never came. He never called back. Talia labored alone. She delivered alone. I stood by her side, but it wasn't enough. She wanted John. She needed him. But he wasn't there. The baby was born at 5 the next afternoon. A beautiful, healthy baby girl. Talia held her, her eyes filled with tears, but not joy, only heartbreak. She kept looking at the door, hoping John would walk in, hoping he would show up, but he didn't. He never cared. And now, as I stood in the sterile, silent room, watching my sister cradle her newborn, I wondered if she would ever be able to pick up the pieces of her shattered heart, or if John had destroyed her completely.